Hey guys, Evan Butler here with Day One Graphics and Media. Just wanted to share with you all one of my latest photo sessions here, shooting aerial silks for one of our local arts academy here in Tennessee. Just wanted to go over some of the basic techniques that I use for this shot. A lot of people will see these photographs and they ask me, how I did it and how I set it up. So I just want to go over a couple of the basics just to share with you guys, and you can go home and practice this if you have access to a studio in your local area or someone who wants aerial photos similar to this. So most of my studio sessions, this is a studio session of course, I shoot in RAW. Simply because when you're shooting in the studio, you've got time to shoot in RAW. The files are a lot larger, but I've got my laptop there with me, and I can dump files as I go. If I'm shooting something like sports, I'm shooting in JPEG, some sort of compressed file, just because I'm usually running and gunning. But in this case, I always shoot in RAW whenever I'm shooting in the studio, just to make sure I have time to shoot the most uncompressed format that I can. So the setup that we have here, we're in probably about an 8,000 square foot dance studio with 20-foot ceilings. So the walls were already black, which is a good thing. However, the walls have blemishes on them and wall plates and lights coming through here and there. So I went ahead and put up my backdrop anyway, my black backdrop, just to get most of the subject in the outline of my black backdrop. And I also eliminated a few blemishes on the walls that were in the background by doing that. So in post, the only thing I'm gonna have to do is come in here and edit out my rails that were holding up my backdrop in the clip here and things like that. One of the things about shooting aerial artists is that you're gonna need plenty of distance depending on where the silk is set up on the ceiling. This silk was probably about 10 foot in front of the wall behind it, which gave us plenty of depth to get that deep black look like we wanted to. So here in post, you see, we're pretty close to a really good picture. Like I said, we just got a few things to do in post just to get it perfected. Shooting in RAW also does this for you. When you open up the file, before it goes into Photoshop, you're going to open up the Camera Raw program, and then you've got the chance to edit quite a few things here before you get started. Of course, you can correct things like your white balance here. Usually I'll leave mine set as shot. Like I said, shooting in the studio, you're in a controlled environment. I've got time to set up my lighting the way I want to. I've got time to color balance before I start shooting. Use a gray card or a white card if you want to get your lighting correct and set up the way you want. So that's the good thing about shooting in a studio. You don't have to come back in the post process and do a lot of color correction and white balancing and things of that sort. So here, before we open up this file, just a couple things that I want to do. I want to brighten up this photo just a little bit before I go into Photoshop, and I want to bring out the green quite a bit, simply because that's what the studio asked for. They wanted to use this green silk. Just because it popped so much against a black background. They had their artist all wearing black, and it just provides a really good contrast. So one of the things for this photo I'm going to do, I think my exposure is pretty good. Just checking the exposure throughout her skin tones and her arms and her face, and that all looks good to me. However, we're going to drop the blacks just a little bit, and you see that also helps eliminate some of the background noise there as well. We're going to bring the shadows down a little bit as well. Highlights we're going to leave the same. We're going to bring the contrast up just a smidge, and you'll start to see the lines in the green cloth start to pop and start to put a little bit more depth into the cloth there. Then I've got my vibrance set up to 46. So when you open the file, it's going to be set at 0. They're kind of flat. So I brought it all the way up to 46 because I really want that green pop, the colors that pop in this, and that's what the vibrant setting does. So notice her red lipstick popped as I did that, as did the green cloth. So These settings look pretty good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up in Photoshop, and then just kind of explain the lighting settings that I had set up. So shooting area artists like this, I usually use a 3-light setup. So here to her, or to our left, I've got a 4-foot softbox, and I'm using this as my key light. So where I have most of my girls pose so that they're angled toward this light, straight on, and this light over here with the softbox is catching her face, her arms, her upper body, her upper torso here, in this right side of her arm. To the right of the shot, I've got a field light. It's a bare bulb field light, and it's about 2 feet lower than my softbox here. And basically that light is just catching any of the body parts that get slung over here, like in this case her feet. And that, that just gives you just overall depth of field for the shot. That way we don't leave anything out. And then we've got a hair light in the back. In this shot you can see is more so illuminating her ear up here in her lower back. So that's our lighting setup. Simple 3-light, nothing extravagant. 1 softbox, 2 bare bulbs, and you can easily get this look here. So like I said, the only thing that we really have to do to this photo are just the basics. So before I start editing, I always duplicate my layer just in case I mess up editing on one layer. I always got the layer to back up, and then you also have a chance to go back and see what you've done and see your work. So one of the things that we're going to do, we're going to need to take out my railing back here that's holding up my backdrop. So there's a couple ways to do that. We're on an all black backdrop, so we could simply just go over the railing with your black paintbrush tool and wait for it to disappear, or we could use the hill brush simply by going over the spots that we want to eliminate. Simple click, and it just kind of disappear and fade into the black. So with that, again, you've got a pretty complete looking photo. But what we're going to do is we try to give our customers really good high quality photos. So we're going to zoom in a bit and eliminate some of the things on her clothing and on her skin that we may want to just get rid of. So small blemishes on the face, again, the Spot Heal brush does that really well. Like so, you kind of get the idea. And again, this isn't noticeable to the naked eye, at first. But again, being a photographer, sometimes we can be perfectionists. So we just like to zoom in and make sure we get anything that may stand out in a print later on, or something that someone may catch down the road. So, example, you can get rid of wrinkles in the clothing, so on and so forth. So let's back out of this, and like I said, one of the things that you really want to do is, or that we really want to do, is make that green cloth pop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over that green cloth with our paintbrush tool, pure black, and we're going to set it to color burn and about 10% opacity and about 10% on the flow. And basically we're just going to go over the shadows here just to fill that in, to make sure we got a really black. This is a really high contrast kind of shot. We can also do it here in the areas under our arms, the cloth here going up to the ceiling, in our legs. So smooth out the material that she's wearing as well. Then again, we're going for that high contrast look. So something else that we can do, or with your paintbrush tool as well, select your white, and we're going to select soft white. Okay, and we're going to turn the opacity up to about 38%, and about the same on the flow. And you can just really make the light stand out on that cloth in between the areas of black. And what that does is that just gives you a really good high contrast kind of look. Alright, so from there, it looks pretty good. But one of the things I've always tried to do, just to double check myself, I go in here and I add a curves layer, and we go in and I just go ahead and I spot check and make sure that I've got everything 100% black around here. And by doing this, if you run into an area of the photograph that's not 100% black, say we in here, it'll let you know. Alright, but it looks like we're pretty good here. Either way, we keep that layer there just to make sure that the black is 100% black, and no matter what screen you put it on or what platform you upload it to, it's always going to be 100% black. So with that, like I said, we've got a pretty complete photograph here. Biggest advice I've got for you is to do everything in studio, pre-photo session if you can. Set up your lighting, take your time to set up your lighting the way you want to, take the time to color balance and light balance in the studio, and take the time to really set up your shot before you come into Photoshop. That way you don't have to spend tons of time doing things like editing. Thanks. See you guys later.